Michelle Prince, founder and CEO of Performance Publishing Group, making a difference one story at a time. We'll be shining the light on successful founders, entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders that are getting results and making a difference. We'll talk about how they built their businesses, are creating movements, and leveraging the power of authority in their own lives. Be sure to stick around to the end of the show, and we'll reveal how you can be our next guest. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Power of Authority Spotlight, where we shine the light on entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders, people that are doing great things. They're building businesses and they're impacting lives. And our guest today is doing all kinds of things to help you to be more productive, and I can't wait to dive in. But first, this episode is brought to you by Performance Publishing. If you've ever thought about writing a book, sharing your story, and using it as your business card, then you want to go to performancepublishinggroup.com and grab a free strategy call. Talk to a publishing expert to see what the path to publishing looks like for you. Again, that's performancepublishinggroup.com. All right, let me introduce you to Jeff Sanders. He's a motivational speaker and daily habits productivity expert. He empowers business professionals and high achievers to dominate their day before breakfast. As the founder and CEO of 5 a.m. Miracle Media, Jeff is also a productivity coach, author of the 5 a.m. Miracle, the Free Time Formula, and founder of the Rockin Productivity Academy and other productivity courses. He hosts the 5 a.m. Miracle podcast, which has ranked #1 in Apple Podcasts in the self-improvement and business categories. He's been nominated for 7 podcast awards and exceeded 13 million downloads. He's a productivity junkie. I love that. Plant-based marathon runner and personal development fanatic. Me too, Jeff. He also eats a crazy number of bananas. Love that. Jeff also consistently shares new and fascinating content about healthy habits, personal development, and rockin' productivity. Every week, you can find him writing and speaking at jeffsanders.com. So, Jeff, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, I am too. So we both share a passion for personal development, but also for productivity. In fact, years ago, I was doing a lot of speaking in that area and wrote a book about it. And not because I was a guru of it, and I want to get your thoughts on this, but mostly because I had to learn it for myself. So what got you interested in productivity, doing as much as you can do to be the best you can be?
Well, interesting enough, it wasn't a natural thing that came to me. It was a job that I landed into on accident, that I discovered this necessity for productivity. And then later on, because of that, I fell in love with the process. So I was working out of college here in Nashville, where I live, and I was helping students find jobs after they graduated. And it was a good job. I liked it, but there was an opening to move into the school's registrar position, which is basically a glorified organizational guru. I didn't even know that at the time. I applied for it thinking like, that'd be fun to try out. I got into the job and realized you have to be really on point to do this job well. There is a ton of paperwork, there is details and student data. And I was really surprised by, okay, well, I don't have the skill set for this yet. I need to learn it now. And so I taught myself how to be organized, to build systems. And in the process, I got good at it. And as I got good at it, I was like, wait a minute, this is fun. It's fun to be good at something, but also I have a natural just desire now to apply this to other areas of my life, my habits, my personal life, my work life, of course. And that just spilled over into all this desire to then share my experiences. I started blogging about it, later on podcasting, writing books about it. Everything stemmed from this realization that if I use my time wisely and have the right strategies, there's so much more value in my day that I can extract. And that was really, it all came from that requirement to do well my job, which then, everything else came from there.
Oh, I love that. I love it. I've heard the saying that we teach that which we need to hear most, in a way.
Yes, absolutely.
Which I can so relate to. But the time management part of it, I mean, sometimes you just have to figure out for yourself, how do you can be more efficient with your time. And, I wrote a book called Busy Being Busy, but Getting Nothing Done. And the reason that was the title was because I just started taking notice of how many times you would run into somebody, hey, how are you doing? And it was always, oh, I'm good, but oh my gosh, I'm so busy. I'm so busy. Almost like we're so proud of it, but it's not a badge of honor, truly. And at the end of the day, we all have 24 hours in a day. So why is it you are radically or rockin' productivity and other people can't. So that's where I'm like you. I think that it's a process, it's a system. It's if you can do it, I can do it, they can do it, so we can all learn from each other. Now, I wanted back before we dive into, I want to know more about the book and the podcast and all of that. But you do a lot of speaking. Tell me a little bit more about that and the kinds of speaking you do and who you're speaking to.
Sure. Well, that really came about because of the podcast, honestly. So I began, my blog initially talking about healthy habits, productivity, personal development was a big part of it.
Mm.
And then because of that, I wanted to talk about it. I bought a fancy microphone and started podcasting. This is back even before podcasting was a thing, before people cared about it.
Yeah.
And I just loved it. And that stemmed into people asking me to speak on the same topics I was talking about on the podcast. And I have a background in theater. And so I always wanted to use that in some capacity in my career, but never, I didn't want to be an actor. So I was like, well, then what do I do with it? And then speaking on stage, it was a perfect fit for doing what it is I want to do, which is talk about and share about these concepts. So that's what I've been doing for the most part, kind of in tandem with the show and online courses. But I speak to conferences, to corporations about these same topics of how do you extract value from your time? How do you get the most you can? Because we walk into our days, usually the way I was before, just stressed out by default. I walk into my day thinking, wait a minute, there's no plan. I'm just buried in stuff. What do I do? And I prefer to flip that around and talk to people about how do we approach this in a different way where you actually are excited for Monday morning. You're excited to get out of bed. I use the phrase to bounce out of bed with enthusiasm, like
Ooh,
which sounds really foreign to a lot of people. Like, why would I want to do that? Like that sounds even hard to do. But I kind of construct a life where if I can do it, I could teach someone else how to do it too. So I
right.
want to talk to people and companies about how you craft a life that looks like that and a team culture that embraces that. And then all of a sudden, it's a different perspective. You just change the conversation to, we want to be excited to be here. Like, what does that even look like?
Oh, so good. I like the way you put it, extract value from your time and not get more hours out of your day or something like that. That really you have no control over, but all of us can pull value out of our day and our time. So I really like the way you phrase that. What are some tips? Because I guarantee if anyone is listening, anyone on the planet, if they said that they have their time completely under control, I think they would probably lie about other things too. Right? Because no matter how good we are at this, there's always room for improvement. But what are some tricks, tips, strategies that people who are listening could implement right away to start being a little bit more productive?
The first thing I always start with is removing things. It's the
Mm,
number one issue I see is overwhelm. And that stems from we're just trying to do it all. I mean, to your point earlier about, I'm busy. That's the default response. Well, if you don't want to be busy, if your goal is to not be that way, then don't be busy. Like, stop saying yes to so many things. And
mm,
by default, say no. And make sure that what you're saying yes to is a definite yes. I'm super excited to do this, or I have to do this. Both of those can fit, as opposed to well, this is optional, so I'll just squeeze it in. Or I got 12 more ideas today. Let me do all of those now, which I'm an idea guy. I get lots of ideas and I have too many to ever pursue, like ever in my life. So I'm not trying to do them all. I'm just trying to do the few things that matter. And so if you want to walk into your day in a way that says, I've got this, today is going to be a great day. Well, that's because the few things on your list are things that you're hopefully good at, have a plan for, and have plenty of time to execute on. And the only way that's possible is if you've crafted your day intentionally on purpose to say, I've got enough time to do the few things that matter, and I've got flex time in case things take longer, because things always pop up. We have to underplan, for your day and do things that matter. And that simplicity of just saying, if I underplan and do things that are important, that's enough. And you can stop there. I think letting yourself off the hook by saying, I don't have to be nonstop, go, 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 check all the boxes. I used to be that guy. And in some ways I still am. I have to stop myself from being that guy all the time. I want to be the kind of person who says, like, I did 2 things today that mattered and I'm good. And I'm good with that.
I think everyone can relate to this, but I want to target right now and just talk about business owners because, like you, I'm an idea person. And I think most entrepreneurs, business owners are. That's why we got into this, right? Because we
Right.
have all these great ideas and also ambition to do many, many things. So sometimes removing things is hard because some of the things that we're doing we really enjoy. So, what is a good barometer? And I'll paint a scenario. and tell me, you may or may not be able to relate, but those days when you get on your calendar and you realize you have back to back to back to back to back meetings or calls or podcasting, or I may or may not be talking about my life right now, but but the truth of the matter is I have my high priority projects too. So
Mm.
it's sometimes hard to distinguish what to say no to and what to say yes to, because as business owners, we're always being told, you know, social media, marketing, sales, all of the things we have to do in order to be successful. So, how do you navigate that for yourself as a business owner?
There are certain things I'm naturally inclined to. I'll use podcasting as a good example. My history in theater, I wanted to do something that leveraged my natural inclinations and skill set. And so I wasn't going to do certain things in business because it wasn't me, but I am going to do the things that are who I am. And so my intention is not to do all the things because I can't. I don't have time. I can't hire enough people to do all the things, but I can do a couple of things well. And so for me, if once I discovered that podcasting was going to be a focal point for me, then it was okay. I will do really well at making sure the podcast is the best it can be, and the channels that are most directly associated with podcasting. Apple Podcasts is a good example. Let me leverage that platform so that I get the most value from where that's going to cause the most growth for the one area of my business I'm focusing on.
Mm.
That doesn't mean I'm also going to have an Instagram account and a TikTok and a YouTube channel and everything else on planet Earth. Like I might have a presence there, but they're not getting my primary attention. My primary attention is going to be in one key area. And then if I happen to build systems over time to beef up the other ones, that's fine. But if the results don't come from those areas, I don't see a reason to ever focus on them with a lot of attention.
Yes.
So it's that question of where does the value come from? And if you double down on those key elements, you actually can work less and get more done. And that's what it's all about. It's not about being everywhere. It's being where it matters. And that's where your focal points go. And it's hard to figure out at first, but once you kind of, tap into, here's my skill set, here's my interests, here's where my customers and clients are. Well, then live in that space, live where they are, and you figure it out pretty quick.
I love that because, I've always thought and have said too that just because other people are doing it does not mean you're supposed to do it, right? If
Right.
somebody says you should be speaking and podcasting and coaching and all of the things, well, what do you enjoy doing? To your point, you love podcasting. I actually really enjoy podcasting. That's one of mine, but speaking is my core. I love to speak and I love to share that. But you just have to figure out what is it that you enjoy it, you're good at it, and you get the most return from it. And then weed out the rest. I love that you said though, under plan, say no, and it's okay. It goes back to boundaries, right? Sometimes, or Henry Cloud put it, no is a complete sentence, meaning you can
Yes.
say no without explaining why, but you have to know. But you also have to know your priorities in order to know what to say no to.
Right.
So priorities and productivity go hand in hand for sure. Tell us
Yes.
a little bit more about your book, though. I want to know more about the 5 a.m. Miracle, what exactly that is, and then talk about the media, the podcast, and all the other things you're doing along that line.
So the 5A Miracle itself came at the same time frame as that job I discussed earlier. I was the registrar of the school and I was trying to figure out, once again, how do I extract value from my time? And at the time I had that full-time job and I had a side business, which is now what I do full-time.
Mhm.
And I was training for a marathon. And at the time I was like, well, the hours don't seem to add up. I don't know when in my day I could squeeze in, commute to work a full-time job, build a side business, run all the time. The numbers didn't seem to make sense to me until I realized that I was waking up really like right before I had to be at work. I would scramble to the office, I'd feel frazzled, and I would end my day exhausted. And I was I need to change this. And so I just started to get out of bed at 5 a.m. one morning and see if I could squeeze in a run before work. And I'm not an early morning guy by nature. The first day I tried it, I loved it. It was this instantaneous realization that there are hours in the day that I was just missing. And if I go to bed on time, which is super important, you go to bed on time, you wake up, you're well rested, you do one key thing that matters. So that's my 5 a.m. miracle. The miracle itself is doing one thing that matters to you before the day really starts. And so for me, initially, that was going for a run, short 3 miles, just get in something, and then shower, go to the office.
Right.
And I felt amazing. I had more energy, more a sense of purpose for the day. And then when the evening showed up, I wasn't as tired. I was able to spend time on my business. Like it all began to make more sense. So to
Mm,
me, the 5 a.m. miracle concept stemmed from this just simple reality that there are only 24 hours in a day, but it's a puzzle. You can move pieces around and figure out what matters most, and you have the right order in place. All of a sudden, things do fit, and the things you care the most about have a space in your life. And so once that was established, it was okay, blog about it, podcast about it, write a book to explain it because I need people to understand what I've experienced firsthand. And like, I saw the stress, I saw the mess, but
yes.
then I fixed it. And in a lot of ways. Now, I have 2 kids now and my life's more complicated, but I still get up early. I still have a focal point in the day. Like the principles haven't changed and I
Mm.
still use them and it still works.
And if you really go out and study incredibly successful people in really any industry, of course, our industry of speaking and writing and all of that, but then, any industry, those people are early risers, not because
Mm.
they want to be.
Right.
Some people are just naturally that way. My husband is naturally an early riser,
Mm.
but the ones that are really truly successful it's intentional. My friend Howard Partridge calls it his time capsule in the morning. I call it, just my morning time, my morning devotion and all that. And no matter what you do, whether you run or, journal or what have you. By the way, I had a little chuckle to myself when you said, "Oh, just something simple like run 3 miles." Spoken like a true marathon runner.
Well, to me, 3 miles is a small, like, blip on the map. But at the same time, I totally understand the value of doing something like this for 3 miles. It might take me, I don't know, 40 minutes to run, let's say. Like, we're
Right.
not talking about a ton of time. We're talking about choosing an activity that has immense value. And so if I can run 3 miles and get immense value from that, then that's a good use of my time. And it's not going to take 4 or 5 hours. We're talking about just a small amount of time with great value for something you care about. And so, to your point, it could be I'm going to write a novel before work. I'm going to write in my journal. I'm going to do some yoga. Like, you pick the activity, the thing that matters to you that you usually don't have time for, that you feel like is just, on the afterburner, but do it first. Make it your priority. And then when it happens, it reinforces that cycle to want to do it again.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're in love with the process.
We all love the feeling of crossing something off your list. And so if you can
Mm,
cross off the thing that you most want to accomplish in that day, personally, professionally, first, it gives you momentum and
mm.
it just changes the whole flow of the day. So I love it. I could talk about this stuff all day because this is the world that I just absolutely love. But how can people work with you? How can they learn more about you? What's some of the best ways to do that?
Yeah, jeffsanders.com is the website with all the podcast, the speaking, the blog posts are all there. And so, or you can email me directly, jeff@jeffsanders.com. I do respond back to every email in 24 hours or less, which is something I've been proud of for a long time, and I still do it because I value communication. So it works well.
I love that. I love it. Well, and I always ask this question because the show is called The Power of Authority, a spotlight. And The Power of Authority to me, I wrote a book with that title years ago, and it is a bit of a play on words. You can't spell authority without author. As a publisher, I do believe everyone should have a book like you do.
Mm.
But authority really is more than just about a book. It's more about just getting yourself, building that platform and getting the exposure. So what else are you seeing that is working in your business right now to build your authority, to build your credibility, the platform? I know you mentioned podcasting already quite a bit, and that's a huge way to do it. Is there anything else that you would say is working for you right now?
Right now, it's actually face-to-face time as much as I can get, which also includes the virtual, a Zoom call or something like that. One thing that happened to me when the pandemic hit was kind of like a lot of people. I lived in my house, kind of with my family all the time. The world got really small for me for a while, and I felt this need to branch out and see people again. And so the last couple of years, it's been this question of how do I get face-to-face with people, spend more time with them, and the human connection is a real thing. And it really does. It builds your network, it builds community, it builds this sense of trust. And all of a sudden you can build up a client base or just friends because you're seeing people. And I feel like I lost a lot of that for a few years. And so bringing that back has been helping me to also build my business, but it's also a personal thing. Just I want to connect more. And so it's been good.
So making just an intentional effort to go to like networking events or
Yes.
community
So
events or
conferences, yeah, in-person events, invite my own friends out for coffee, just kind of like that kind of time of just let me kind of do that more. And it's amazing how that works. I mean, the other strategy of that is I'm trying to network more with LinkedIn. If you use a platform as a good example, really leveraging what that is to also lead to more connections that could lead to opportunities to be in person. So it's,
Right.
where are the avenues to make that more possible? And of course, speaking engagements are, face to face usually, but what can I do to have that human connection more often? That has been working really well.
I love that. Well, at the end of the day, we do business with people we know, like, and trust. And it's really hard to get to know somebody like them and trust them if you don't spend time with them. So
Yes.
I think that's great advice. And not had really, people haven't really shared that. A lot of other things, social media, podcasting, books, et cetera. But I really like that. So, well, Jeff, thank you so much for being on the show. I'll let you kind of wrap it up for us with one last productivity tip or thought or anything that you want to share just to close us out.
My favorite productivity strategy is what I call my FBOT, or focused block of time, which is a 100% distraction free block that I try to incorporate at least once a day in my work days. And I am extremely intentional about that, where I turn off any and every distraction I possibly can. Right? I have apps on my computer to block websites. My phone gets turned off. Like, no one's going to find me for 90 minutes, let's say. And then I do one activity and I give my full self to that one thing for 90 minutes. And I am always amazed at how much creativity I get from it, focus, quantity of work, quality of work, everything goes up. So if you could do anything to improve not just how much you get done, but what you are doing, give it real focus, true, authentic focus, and you'd be amazed at how much power's in your brain to bring out and do it better.
Love that. Great advice. And again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, everyone. That's it for the Power of Authority Spotlight. So many great nuggets there. Hope you were taking notes. But definitely the one thing I'll leave you with is, if in order to be more productive, you need to start letting things go, removing things, and especially saying no. We'll see you next time on the Power of Authority Spotlight. Thanks so much for listening to the Power of Authority Spotlight. If you are a successful founder, entrepreneur, business owner, or leader that's getting results and making a difference, and you'd like to be on this program, please visit performancepublishinggroup.com/podcast to apply. That's performancepublishinggroup.com/podcast. Also, if you got something out of this interview, please share this episode. Just do a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on the socials. If you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag #ThePowerOfAuthoritySpotlight. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content, so make sure you don't miss any episodes by subscribing. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our websites, performancepublishinggroup.com or michelleprince.com, and follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.